What's up, guys? This is Brooks, and we are doing the Hear Me Out podcast, hot media exclusive with the Takira Carter. Takira, say what's up to the people.
What's up, people? How are y'all doing?
Yeah, this is our first time having Takira back since we did that G League video with Ant and Mike from
Mhm.
Capital Hoops and Mike's podcast. But Takira, nice to see you again. Since we last spoke, you got a job with the WNBA as their social media and digital content creator. Let us know how that came about.
So basically I just applied. It was one of those things where I was on Indeed, I saw a job posting and I read the description. I was like, wow, this is something that I would be very interested in. And so, I just applied for it. I went through the necessary steps to try to reach out to people on LinkedIn and stuff like that and say, hey, I applied for such and such. Could you like look out for my application? A job recruiter had hit me up. The job had actually, they went on a hiring freeze. So I didn't even know if I was going to get it because of the pandemic. So I had applied for the job like it was maybe like 4 months where I was like just waiting it out. And I, was just keeping in touch within those 4 months though and saying, hey, if you're going to be hiring for this position still, I'm still interested. And so, I just was being persistent, although I didn't know the status of everything, just like they didn't know the status of everything. But, I knew I wanted the position.
So, I mean, that's one of the key things is staying persistent. Just like you mentioned, were did you get word as soon as they found out about the bubble, or what was more of the details with that?
No, so I got hired like in the middle of the season. Like I was like thrown into it, like boom, like me and my coworker Jenny, she started like a week before me, and I started like a week after her. And I don't remember what month it was, but they had already started games and stuff like that. I worked remotely doing social media. So my role is to live tweet during games, post things on Facebook during games, post game recaps, update the website for the WNBA.com and their app, post on their Instagram page, and come up with different content ideas on days where there's not games and stuff like that. And some content gets sent to us where, we have to think of the copy that we want to put. So, like writing captions and different things like that. And it's actually a pretty cool job because you don't really know all that goes into social media and how you have to be so precise because people are always trying to look at a way to bash the WNBA in the first place. So you have to be on point.
Yeah, I mean, and you just mentioned just all the distractions and people always commenting like, oh, no one cares. Why
Yeah, like stuff like that, and not reacting to that. Like you literally have to look at it and keep it pushing.
You mean to tell me not once, like, how with some of these bigger accounts, like fast food joints, they'll always
They
say,
clap back.
you never thought of doing that?
Oh, I've thought of it, but I haven't done it. I like my job, so it's always going to be a thing where I feel like women, for whatever reason, people try to treat them less than, like their skill isn't as good as the next person's, although these women are incredible. But, some people don't see it, and some people don't even watch the games and like to talk about the WNBA or, the lack thereof. So, you just keep your mouth shut, read the comments that are, 9 times out of 10 from somebody who doesn't know the game of basketball or hasn't even taken the time to invest in watching the WNBA.
Facts, facts. Now, speaking of incredible women, just what were some of your favorite moments of the bubble? What did you really like about what they did, and how successful was it in your eyes?
Just the planning to keep everything very, strategic, making sure they got tested and um my coworker who was in the Wubble, like the shuttle service that they had from her, like she would go from like the hotel to the gym and everything was like sort of, laid out because they really wanted to have this season and they cared about the players and their health in doing so. So, and the staff members, the people who were there. So I think, they took the time to do an amazing job with that. Another thing that I also loved was how they had Black Lives Matter on the court and the social justice initiatives that they took every single day and how everyone bought into it. There wasn't a player, to my knowledge, that, acted out or, didn't respond. It was like a solidarity thing. And I really appreciated that and being a part of, a company that was all in for it as well, who, let these players express themselves.
For sure. I mean, that's the one thing about the WNBA and black women in general from that league is just they ride and die for the movement and black men in general. Um, Now, obviously, being with the social media director, or not directors, but creators, about just the BLM stuff, as well as people trying to start with the Atlanta Dreams owner Kelly Love. I can't remember. I don't know how to say her last name.
Yeah,
Loeffler.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing about social media. Like, it's always gonna be the comments, the good, the bad, negative. People who just comment to do so or not, knowing anything. But there was a fair share of people who would always comment on a post and say you shouldn't be standing up for, a person who did XYZ, referring to Blake about the bullets in his back, but then they want to resort to, well, he had a criminal record and he did this, that, and the other. That doesn't mean that what the police did was okay. And so, there's always going to be comments about stuff, but the thing that, we loved is that you don't back down, you go about things in the proper way. And for us, for our sake, like no response was the best response. We just continue to put out the content about it and, make sure that if it's something that the company as a whole wants to highlight and the players, are adamant about it, then, you continue to post about it.
Now, last year, moving on just a little bit. Last year, you got to be in attendance. You got to cover the Mystics winning their WNBA championship. This year, the Seattle Storm, they got their second title in 3 years. Unfortunately, the Mystics they weren't able to get past the Suns, and they had a whole lot of health issues with Elena Delle Donne. Tina Charles wasn't there. Natasha Cloud decided to sit out the season in protest. um, it's obviously super early to predict these type of things, but do you see a Mystic Storm's final matchup coming next season?
I could, because the Mystics, even with those missing pieces, they started out very strong. They had the emergence of Maisha Hines Allen. You can see, and we saw it, last year when they won it, that their bench players were great at their roles. Adding Leilani Mitchell, a vet point guard who has played on teams that have gone to the finals. I even think she has a championship, but don't quote me on that. But I think she does. So just knowing what they're going to be bringing back to the table, and the people who got to get experience this year, like Stella Johnson. Coach Tebow was very high on her when they got her from the Chicago Sky. So just seeing how they can kind of work that together and have that emerge with the star power of Tina Charles and Elena Delle Donne and Natasha Cloud, I think they'll be pretty hard to beat.
For sure. And speaking of just really hard teams to beat, the Aces, they had their MVP in Asia Wilson. Um, One of the things that I thought was really interesting was the fact that she had such a great career year. When Liz Cambage was out, she didn't
Yeah.
want to play. Do you see any type of issues coming with that next season with the way those two play?
I don't see issues. It's just more so like who is going to be the player that defers to the other. I don't necessarily think they play the greatest together because someone has to get less touches. It's just inevitable. But the balance is going to be maybe Asia Wilson has a hot game, but maybe, Liz Cambage, she's getting after it on the boards, but her scoring numbers aren't necessarily up there. I feel like Asia Wilson, regardless of who is there, her confidence just has to stay high, and she has to continue to do her. I think you could probably agree with me on this one. Liz Cambage is going to do her regardless. That's her mindset. That's the player that she is. I feel as though that's the person that she is. So I think coming back, they'll be able to mesh well together. But it's like I said, it's going to come down to one of them having to defer to each other on some nights, and just thinking about that ultimate goal to win a championship and to get it done together. Especially, Angel McCoughtry will be returning too. That's another big time scorer that they'll have who, although she's one of the older vets, she can still get it done. So just working out that teamwork aspect.
Plus Kelsey Plum, and then
Yeah.
Derek Hamby's knees better by that time too.
Yeah, so that's gonna be, a powerhouse in itself. I think it's certainly gonna be interesting, and then seeing Christy Tolliver in LA coming, with Candace Parker and Chelsea Gray, Taya Cooper. I'm thinking that Fish is gonna keep her around to come off the bench, so that would be pretty cool.
Did you have any favorite game, or what were your favorite moments? I mean, we spoke a little bit about it earlier, but just to clarify.
Favorite game. I don't have a favorite game in particular, but I think my favorite series was watching the Las Vegas Aces and Connecticut Sun go at it, because the Connecticut Sun, Alyssa Thomas goes out with like this dislocated shoulder or whatever it was. And, she comes back the next game, wrapped up, rested up. She wore a sling the whole entire day. We were talking and we were like, is she going to play tonight? Like, we were writing into each other on Slack at work, and, here she comes, and they made for a great series. So I think just watching that whole series was pretty fun.
Shout out to Alyssa Thomas. Shout out to the UMD Terps too.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely best alums we have out there. Um, Now I brought up Asia, but then also Brianna Stewart. She's, I guess, a de facto face of the league, right? Would you say that marketing superstars like those two, someone like Candace Parker, if Maya Moore comes back, do you think marketing those type of superstars would help give the NBA or WNBA, excuse me, more exposure and more fans, or is it just like a issue of just misogynistic fans or whatever it may be?
I think it's exactly what you just said. More so, the misogynistic fans. I believe that the WNBA, they do a good job of marketing and, doing the tune in post this season, doing a commercial, make way, make change, and putting the best players out there at the forefront. People have to buy into wanting to continuously watch. And also, just networks willing to show the games on live TV at decent times where people are going to watch as well. And not having to compete with other sports for spots on the forefront. I think that also plays a big factor into it. But as far as the marketing, could there be more commercials? Yes, I agree as far as that goes, like just more commercial wise and TV time. But you put the product out there and you put it at good timings and on the mainstream networks like ESPN and not ESPN2 and things like that, viewership is going to be there. People are going to watch it. There's always going to be the WNBA haters for whatever their reason may be. No real reason, just because they don't like watching women's basketball, that is.
Yeah, that's facts. I think, and it's unfortunate because this year they're gonna have, or I thought they were gonna have a really big jump just because of like the player association getting that money they did, getting more exposure. Unfortunately, the pandemic messed everything up like it did for everybody else. Um, I think the WNBA president commissioner, she mentioned that there was like a 68% growth in the league. How big is that just for the league in general?
Yeah, it's huge, but like you say, you put the product out there and you put them on, primetime TV, people are going to watch it. And there's, something else. It was nothing else really going on if you're not playing on the same night as the NBA and stuff like that. They weren't competing with baseball at this time, the World Series. So, it just gave room to, watch these women. And in the midst of this pandemic, people don't have, as much stuff to do. So another, I think, big deal as far as viewership went.
Now, this is a more personal question. This
Mm-hmm.
is me because I'm a fan of the show. Ty, you have the Life After podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We see a return of that of Life After.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about that and working, on how do I make it come back, because I never really was like this is like a sign off. I just got busy and kind of, didn't keep up with my podcast. But I definitely want to make a return with the podcast and brainstorm some more ideas and ways to talk about things and help former athletes and current athletes, navigate through that life after college.
For sure. Now, it's been a while since we've seen any high school or college basketball games start. For you, what was the last game that you got to see in person or cover?
In person. Um, I mean, I coached high school basketball this past season. I was an assistant varsity basketball coach at Freedom High School in Woodbridge, Virginia. Our tournament game was the last game that I was like a part of,
Mm.
if I have to be quite frank. Prior to that, though, it was probably Howard University, when I was a color analyst for the men's and women's basketball team. I think it was a senior night doubleheader, if I'm not mistaken. That was like the last game that I covered before the shutdown because it was in March.
Now, you mentioned being an assistant coach, being
Mm-hmm.
a former player and being and playing at the highest level, at D1 level. How was that? And did you have like how many frustrating moments did you have just trying to get players to want to play like you wanted them to play?
It was a different experience. I'll definitely say that. When you're in the coaching position, you can you look back and you reflect and you appreciate like your coaches even more. You'd be like, oh, this is what she used to be talking about, or this is what she used to be getting on me about. Um, and there was frustrating moments, primarily on the fact that a lot of the girls on my team, they had never played basketball on a high level. Some of them, it was, I think we had one returning player who played varsity and the rest were like on freshman and JV, but we didn't have a freshman and JV team. It was only varsity. So we had to, whoever kind of it was a weird situation. Kind of whoever showed up was on the team, and we had to work to develop them. And head coach, he tried his best to put into some things that where we can do skill work more so. And I think the part that was hard was, someone getting some people to buy in. But if basketball is not your life and it's not, something that you want to do beyond this, then it's hard to buy into that. Some people were just playing for fun. And so for me, it was tough to really register with that, because when I played basketball, I knew that I wanted to play Division I basketball, and that was my goal, and it always was my goal. So, having to realign my thinking and understanding that for some people, this is just their outlet to stay after school, or like I said, to just have fun or be with friends. And for me, it was never a joke or a game.
Really? So
Yeah.
there be a return for Coach Todd next season at Freedom?
I've been talking about it. I think I'm gonna hop back on the sidelines. We're supposed to have practice Thursday, so
Oh, nice.
yeah, definitely help out with the girls when I can. They're a great group of girls as far as just being who they are. But like I said, if you don't have people who work with you your whole life and stuff like that, and do like the necessary skill development and stuff like that, it's hard to just hop into basketball in high school.
Facts. Now we're gonna hop onto the other side of it. You being a media member, and you mentioned already being color analyst. Excuse me, I can't say that word. How was that experience for you? And you've been doing it for a couple of seasons now. I know that.
It was cool. It was certainly fun calling both the men's and women's game, learning the pacing. Like in, the women's game is a little more lax, and then transitioning to like a men's game during a double header it's like, okay, you know, the pace of the game is going to pick up a little bit and stuff like that. So it was cool experience. And also I, of course, went to a PWI. I didn't get to attend a HBCU. So calling games at Howard University allowed me to sort of get that HBU experience, you know, with the band rocking, the dancers, the fans, you know, just being hype and all this culture at Howard University. So definitely a great experience.
All right, Ty. Well, before I let you go, before we get going here, is there anything else that you would like to say?
I would like to say thank you for having me on your podcast. This is the first one I've done in forever or so. Yeah, it's been a while, but it's great catching up with you. And I thank you. Wishing you just continued success and, you know, keep up the great work.
Likewise, likewise. Once again, this is a Hot Media and Hear Me Out podcast exclusive with Takira Carter, talking about WNBA, some of her more personal things with life after podcast, coaching, being in the media. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you got to the end, and we are out. Bang! My guy or gal, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and share this video for the latest on sports, progressive politics, and pop culture. Slap!